This week we're studying Parashat Ekev, and we're studying the holy words of Rabbi Leib Heyman. And in this week's Torah portion, Rabbi Leib tells us that this is just a continuation of Moshe Rabbeinu's speech to the Jewish people before he passes away. And in essence, a review to the Jewish people of what he did for the Jewish people, what their traveling in the desert was, the highlights. And of course, as we mentioned in the previous weeks, Moshe Rabbeinu was rebuking the Jewish people for all of the sins that they did. He hinted to them, most of them. He was more specific in others at different times, not all at once. We spoke about that 2 weeks ago. But in this week's Torah portion, in this week's Torah portion, Moshe Rabbeinu rebukes them specifically and very clearly for their sin of the golden calf. And how Hashem, in his ultimate mercy and compassion, forgave the Jewish people. For as we always think of the unforgivable, the sin of the golden calf, explains Reb Leib, was something which is unforgivable. He quotes briefly the Midrash. We've shared this Midrash before. We'll share it again. The Midrash tells us that the sin of the golden calf, to understand the severity of it, is literally like a groom waiting under the chuppah while his bride is walking down. And the bride says, pause 1 second, I got to run to the restroom. And she's in the restroom 5 minutes, 10 minutes, 15 minutes, and everyone's waiting till someone goes and checks on her, and unfortunately, she is having an affair with another man right before coming down the chuppah, down the aisle, to marry her groom. Horrible. Reb Leib says, could you ever imagine the groom, and by the way, that's just the way the Midrash says it, but it could be vice versa also. Could you ever imagine a spouse, whether it's the groom or the bride, forgiving the other in such a scenario? Absolutely not. What? Oh, sure. Let's continue. So we had a 15-minute, a half an hour break. Now it's time. Let's continue with the chuppah. Not happening. Not then and there. No way. So it's literally the unforgivable. Hashem, the groom, is about to marry the bride, Bnei Israel. And they're preparing. Moses gives the 10 Commandments. He goes up. He's about to bring down the tablets. And right before the chuppah is about to start and the culmination of the marriage, oh, the Jewish people sinned. They were unfaithful. They are worshiping a golden calf. Like, hello, what's going on over here? And that's why the Midrash, the Leib, all our sages always say that the golden calf, the sin of the golden calf, is literally, seemingly unforgivable. And yet, Moshe Rabbeinu is telling the Jewish people, do you see how amazing Hashem is? Do you see what divine mercy has? How he was able to forgive you. But the Jewish people did lose a spiritual jewel that they acquired when they proclaimed Na'aseh v'nishma. We will do and then we will listen. Bnei Israel were left without the luchot, the tablets, which was their marriage document, the ketubah between them and Hashem, for almost 3 months, right? It took almost 3 months till Moshe Rabbeinu came down with the next tablets. But then they received them again. The second tablets they received, they were taken by the Jewish people, and they were given to the Jewish people by HaKadosh Baruch Hu with no trial period. I mean, God forbid, if there is some type of unfaithfulness between a husband and wife, if they do decide to proceed with the marriage, there's got to be some trial period or some conditions. There were none. Hashem was completely merciful, completely compassionate, Finally, when Hashem says, Salachti kidvarecha, when Hashem says, I'll forgive the Jewish people as you say, Moses, right away he took them back. And all he basically told them to do was make a mishkan, make the tabernacle so I can reside my presence in there for you, Jewish people. As if it never happened, says Reb Leib. As if it all never happened. So remember that bride and groom scene every time we speak about the golden calf. And so it was. The Jewish people spent a couple months building the tabernacle, inaugurating it, which was beautiful. But a few months later, they sinned again, this time with the spies. And in truth, if Hashem would have acted, says Reb Leib, according to the letter of the law, he really should have killed off the nation when they came and they received and they accepted the negative report of the spies, and they cried in vain. That very Tisha B'Av, according to the letter of the law, they should have been destroyed, completely gone. But Hashem, in his ultimate mercy, he didn't. He said, instead of killing them all now, we'll kill them slowly over 40 years. Why did he do that? Reb Leib wants to know what is keeping Hashem, what's driving God to be so compassionate and so merciful for the Jewish people. It would have been so much easier to just, all those who sinned with the spies, gone. Why wait 40 years? Well, Hashem knew the damaging effect that it would be, that it would cause to all of the children, all of the orphans that would be from all of those people who sinned. That generation, the children who are going to enter the land of Israel, if they are to be raised for the next 40 years as orphans, that's detrimental to them. So Hashem, in his ultimate compassion and mercy, said, we'll push it off. We'll do it slowly. Of course, it's very sad the whole nation had to be changed over. That generation had to be wiped out. But why? Why not all at once? Because it's much easier for people to swallow, okay, over 40 years, opposed to at one shot. So let's go back to Reb Leib's question. Reb Leib is saying, we need to ask ourselves, what did the Jewish people do to deserve Hashem's unlimited and continuous mercy and forgiveness? It seems like it's just nonstop. They rebelled once. They rebelled a second time. They're constantly complaining. They're constantly doubting the messenger that, guess who? God chose, Moses. But yet Hashem just keeps on coming. Forgiveness card, chance. Why? What's going on? So Reb Leib did share this with us. We must have learned this a couple months ago. This is a powerful concept, and I'm so happy that he's drawing back to something we've spoken about, so it jogs our memory to this idea. Reb Leib tells us we have to remember who these people were. Who were these Jewish people? They were every single one of them. We're talking about the first generation that left Egypt. Every single one of them were born in Egypt. But they weren't just born in Egypt. They were born as slaves. They were born into a very dark world for themselves. They were born into suffering, into oppression. The Ibn Ezra, one of the foremost commentaries on our Torah, tells us, he writes, that there is nothing harder or worse for someone to feel like they're being controlled, like they're suppressed by another. He explains the lack of freedom is something that destroys and crushes a human being. It ruins their spirit, especially when their treatment is unjust. It's almost impossible, says Reb Leib, for a person to recover from such trauma. And this is what that generation experienced. That generation was born into suffering, oppression, slavery, darkness. It was a trauma that they held with them from their birth throughout the Exodus process. Reb Leib says, we know many Jews, unfortunately, who suffered tremendously in their lives. Specifically, Reb Leib draws to the Holocaust. They suffered for years. And most or many never fully, well, there's no way to fully recover, but never even recovered from the trauma they experienced at the hands of the evil, ruthless Nazis. Can we imagine what the generation who exited Egypt? It wasn't 5 years or a decade. It was decades. It was 100 years, almost 100 years of slavery and oppression. How do you want them to recover from such a thing? So Hashem intended to heal them. He intended with his great compassion. He made sure to punish the Egyptians and the Jewish people to witness it, because it does bring somewhat of a healing consolation when you see the person who was causing you to suffer unjustly for years on end to now be punished by God. So the Jews witnessed the 10 plagues. The Jews witnessed the splitting of the sea, and their enemies who were coming back to take their lives drown and suffer. By Matan Torah, by giving the Jewish people the Torah, God elevated them to levels of prophets. Why would he do all this? He was doing this with the intention to heal the Jewish people from their trauma, to heal them from that pain and suffering, that oppression that no one should ever know from. But even after all that healing, says Reb Leib, there was still a crack, a chip in their hearts, on their shoulders, because there is no way to fully recover from certain tragedies and pain. There's certain things that you just can't overcome. There was a reason, Reb Leib reminds us, that the Jewish people had to go through what they went through. I mean, let's not say that Hashem was unjust in what the Jews experienced in Egypt, even though it seemed completely horrible, but there's a reason for it. Chazal tell us that the Jewish people, they started worshiping idols in Egypt. They stopped circumcising their sons. They wanted to be exactly like the Egyptians. Hashem showed them, yeah, you want to live a life like the Egyptians without me? Go. Look how it turns out. Look at what the results are. You're not like the rest of the nations. You're different. But all the Jewish people remembered was Hashem being silent, absent, missing for almost 100 years while they were suffering. That's all they remembered. And this is a powerful concept, because this answers why are the Jewish people so sensitive? They're such a sensitive nation. Every time the Erev Rav, the mixed multitude, comes and claims to the Jewish people, Hashem left you, Hashem abandoned you, they start freaking out. Where? Why? The Satan comes and convinces them that Moses went up and he's dead. He even showed the Jewish people an image in the sky of Moses on his coffin. Why did they freak out and now feel the need to go and worship something, an idol, a golden idol? Because they were hypersensitive. The Jewish nation at that time, that first generation, the generation that left Egypt, were hypersensitive because of the trauma they went through. They felt like God turned their back on them for almost 100 years. Even after a month or two or even a year of God being with them, they still, anytime there's a little bit of a shake, a little bit of a change, the trauma comes and they relive the trauma they lived. and the pain and the suffering. So in frantic panic mode, the Erev Rav comes up with an idea. Let's go back to Egypt. Let's go. Did Hashem bring us out here to die? To bury ourselves here? There's no food. Panic, frantic mode. Moses is no longer. They need a new leader. They're dying to be led by something that's loyal. Okay, let's have a golden calf. Let's do it. Just to comfort, just to feel heard, just to feel cared for. They were immediately looking for a new God. Now, I think what I said till now, it's novel. We've learned about this somewhat in the past, but his proof, Rav Leib's proof, is literally like hitting the nail on the head. Listen how fascinating this is. There was one tribe that did not sin in Egypt. They did not worship idols. They did not stop learning Torah. They did not stop circumcising their sons. They did not want to be like the Egyptians. It was Shevet Levi, the tribe of Levi. And because of that, they did not become slaves. And they never had the trauma the other 11 tribes had. They didn't go through the same experiences. And therefore, when the Jewish people got tricked and they thought that Moses was not coming down, they felt no need to worship an idol. And they did not worship the golden calf. Why? Because they were not hypersensitive like the rest of the nation. Because they never lived through all that suffering and oppression. They may have seen their cousins living through it, but they did not have that pain and suffering. They did not have that same trauma. That feeling of abandonment for even a moment did not trigger within them to go into fight mode and now go and find a new God. So now Reb Leib says, let's understand the Jewish people for a moment. At the end of the day, they're human beings. What does every human being want? There's one thing every human being wants, more than just happiness. Happiness is too vague. You know what a human being wants? They aspire to? They aspire peace and tranquility. Literally, to be relaxed. To have it easy somewhat. It's human nature. It's the way Hashem created us. And Bnei Israel were promised throughout their entire exile, they will one day return to the land of their forefathers and they will be blessed and they will have peace and tranquility. All these human beings, I want to say the poor nation, all this poor nation wanted was to stop being picked on and beaten and oppressed and slaves. They just wanted to go what they called home, their homeland, and they wanted tranquility. That's all they want. They were even told that there are 7 nations that occupy the land right now, and Hashem even promised he'll take care of them. Take a look at your screen. Hashem says, Exodus chapter 3, verse 17, ואומר אעלה אתכם מעוני מצרים אל ארץ הכנעני והחיתי והאמורי והפריזי והיבוסי אל ארץ זבת חלב ודבש. Hashem says, I'm going to take you out of this land of Egypt. I'm going to bring you to the land, to the promised land that has the 7 nations, the land of flowing milk and honey. And Hashem promises that he's going to send an angel that will guide them and protect them. B'shalachti lefanecha. This is in Exodus chapter 33, verse 2. And I will send in front of you an angel, and I will drive out the nations in that land, says Hashem. So they've been promised. They're just waiting and waiting and waiting. And even though they were living above nature above the laws of nature in the desert, they're being completely supported by God. But all they wanted to live was a normal life. They didn't want the man. They didn't want to drink from a be'er, from a well. They wanted to go and draw their own water. They wanted to water their own plants, pick their own fruit, build their own house, live a simple, tranquil life. They craved it. But again, they were so sensitive. They've been being promised a dream their entire lifetime. But they were very sensitive and they had a lot of trauma and baggage. The truth is, Reb Leib says the Jewish people never really feared. They never feared that they could not overcome the 7 nations, because Hashem promised that He would help them with it. So why is it that right before entering the land of Israel, asks Reb Leib, do they say, let's send spies? Where did that come from? It seems like it came out of left field because Hashem said He was going to fight the war for them. They just came out of seeing everything Hashem did to Egypt and Paro and the Egyptians. They never imagined that they'd even have to fight for Israel. It would be given to them. So why is it that they even asked for the spies? So later in this week's Torah portion, Moses does tell the Jewish people that if you ever doubt how will you conquer this land, remember what Hashem did for you in Egypt. Remember what Hashem did to Paro and the Egyptians. Reb Leib asks, why is Moses referring to the second generation what Hashem did to Egypt? They didn't live that. They lived the most recent wars against Sichon and Og. Why did Moses say, if you ever doubt, like he's leaving them, he's sending them off with Joshua, if you ever doubt how you're going to conquer the land, don't worry, you just won these 2 wars against Sichon and Og, you'll win those as well. No. Moses says, remember what Hashem did to Egypt. That was 40 years ago. We weren't even there. Most of the people weren't even there of the second generation. Reb Leib says, by the way, he hasn't seen any other commentary mention this, so this is his novelty. He says that the miracles that God did for the Egyptians was an indicator to the way salvation is given to the Jewish people, carried out completely by God. The Jewish people didn't lift a finger in beating or conquering Egypt. It was all by God. Hashem, says Moses, if you want Hashem to fight your battle 100% when you enter the land of Israel, it's doable. It's possible. You have to be 100% committed to Him through Torah and mitzvot, and He will fight that battle for you. You just need to show up. The wars of Sichon and Og, the Jewish people had to go out and fight. Of course, there was great success with divine help, but they had to fight it. If you want that option, there's that option. But Moshe's warning is reminding them, if you want it the way Hashem intended, if you want it, I'm going to show you the verse. The verse is, here we go, Exodus 14:14. Adonai lachem ba'atem taharishun. Hashem will fight it and you'll just remain silent. You'll just inherit it. This is what Hashem wanted and is intended for you to inherit and to settle in the land of Israel. But you have to do so in order to merit it, you have to fulfill the Torah and the mitzvot and deserve that level of Hashem fighting it and you just being silent and getting it. So there is someone else in our Torah who did request for peace and tranquility. Does anyone know who that was? There was someone in our Torah. I could read your lips if you're saying it. If I see you in the screen. Who, Eileen? No. Jacob. Jacob, our third patriarch. In Parashat Vayeshev, the book of Genesis, Vayeshev Yaakov beretz migurei aviv beretz Canaan. Vayeshev is a terminology of settling, of sitting. Rashi explains, our commentaries explain, All Yaakov wanted was to rest. He wanted to have peace and tranquility. He wanted a break. In his youth, he was suffering his tormented brother. He ran for his life from him. He worked 20 years for his uncle, for his wives, that he was tricked multiples of times. He was cheated constantly. He finally had to run for his life from his father-in-law, who was his uncle as well, with his family. He was being chased for his life. Then he's going to meet his brother who he hasn't seen in 20 years, who also wants to kill him, who's armed with 450 men. 400 men, excuse me. He gets out of that. Now, unfortunately, his daughter's raped. His two sons go and they kill out the whole city. He's put in a very difficult position in the world now. His wife, his favorite wife, Rachel, passes away at age 36, so young. He comes home and he hears that his mother, who he loved so much, has also passed away. He's had a hard life so far. He comes home wiped out, exhausted, tired. He wants tranquility. He asks for tranquility. Boom. Joseph gets kidnapped and sold by his brothers. Now, make no mistake, Yaakov Avinu did not want to chill out or relax. He wanted a break from distractions. He wanted to serve Hashem with no distractions. He wanted to reach a high level in connection with Hashem. I think he deserves it at a certain point, no? But no, the Satan comes, the Yetzer Hara comes, and has the issue with Yosef and him. And it destroys Yaakov until he finally reunites with him 22 years later. Jacob's already an old man at that time. Leib says, it's shocking how similar the story of Jacob is to the story of the Jewish people exiting Egypt. Now he explains. All Bnei Israel were looking for, they were looking for peace and tranquility after their suffering. They wanted a place to rest in. Their response was not exactly that. Their response to the spies was a feeling, Leib explains, of being let down and not fulfilling their dreams. That's why they literally freaked out. Very similar to what happened to Jacob. He says there's more similarities. Jacob and the Jewish people both have a result of sending messengers who were seemingly unnecessary. Look at this. Jacob sent Joseph to check up on his brothers. Was there a need for Jacob to send Joseph to check up on his brothers? Joseph as a messenger, as a shaliach, as a spy? No. Every day the brothers would come back and report to Jacob. It happened to be, it'd been a couple days, they didn't come back and report. So one of two things, either they were occupied or they were in danger. But if they're in danger, is Joseph, the 17-year-old teenager, going to be the one that's going to help them? Furthermore, Jacob knew that his brothers were jealous of Joseph, to the point where when he heard the news that Joseph was killed, as the brothers lied to their father, he felt sick to his stomach that he sent his son. He understood it was a mistake. The Jewish people, the same thing. The Jewish people that left Egypt, they sent spies, they sent messengers into the land of Israel, which was completely unnecessary, as we said. They didn't have any patience to wait to get in. They wanted to send the spies to go see. Furthermore, the 10 tribes There were 10 spies who sinned. There were 10 brothers who plotted against Joseph. Right? Benjamin and Joseph were obviously not part of that plot. Jacob mourned, so did the Jewish people mourn. With the same terminology in the Torah. Take a look. This is in Genesis chapter 37, verse 34. When Jacob hears of Joseph, what happens? He rips his garment. Vaitabel al beno, and he mourned his son. What happened when the Jewish people heard about the report of the spies? Numbers 14, verse 39. Vaidaber Moshe advarim ha'ele el kol Yisrael. Vaitabelu ha'am meod. After Moses tells them that they're not going to enter the land of Israel, the people mourned. They mourned. Jacob mourned. The Jewish people mourned. Jacob made a mistake and sent an unnecessary messenger. The Jewish people sent an unnecessary messenger. 10 brothers over here, 10 spies over here. So many comparisons explains Reb Leib between the two stories, but it's not their fault. It was a mistake, but it's not their fault. It's human nature that after a tremendous amount of suffering, all they're seeking is tranquility, is peace and tranquility. This feeling of peace and tranquility is something that we see nowadays as well. It was passed on. It was Jacob. It was the Jewish people. It's our parents and grandparents. It's the survivors of the Holocaust. It's after the Spanish Inquisition. It's ourselves in our lives. Human beings crave peace and tranquility so dearly that they're willing to even fight wars for it. As the Jewish people did after World War II. They were doing anything to settle the land of Israel. But unfortunately, every time the Jewish people think that we're going to act as just another nation without Torah and mitzvot, without God in our lives, and just try to fit in by relinquishing our observance to Torah and mitzvot, it doesn't end up good. It doesn't work out well. So after 2 or 3 wars, Reb Leib says, didn't bring them to their tranquility, they give up. They just give up. And the only way to acquire the land, Reb Leib says, it's not through war. It's through subduing oneself to Hashem, which is exactly why the Torah refers to the land of Israel not as the land of Israel, to the land of Canaan. Why to the land of Canaan? Because the word Canaan it's really a name. It was Noach's son. It says as follows. Look at the verse. He was cursed. Here we go. Vayomer, Noach says, Arur Kenan, cursed is my son Kenan, Eved Avadim Yelechav. He'll be a slave among slave to his brethren. This is in Genesis chapter 9, verse 25. Kenan was cursed by his father that he would be a slave. The word Kenan, lehachnia in Hebrew, means to subdue. Specifically, God made sure that the holy land of Israel, the chosen land, the source of this world, was called Canaan, Eretz Canaan, to teach us that the only way to acquire the land of Israel is through Keni'ah, through subduing oneself to Hashem. By understanding that we belong to God, that we are slaves to God. That's the source of the word. But the reoccurring problem is that through every slave is that they start looking and they want to rest for themselves. They want to break from their master. They want to stop serving their master. As Eov, as it says in Eov, take a look, chapter 7, verse 2. Ke'eved yishaf tzel uchsachir yikaveh pa'alo. As a slave who longs for the shadow, and his hireling who hopes for his wages. What does every slave want? What does every worker want? They can't wait till the end of the day for the sun to set and then for them to have rest and to be paid. But Hashem said there's no rest in this world. Rest is in the world to come. This world, Adam la'amal yulad. We are created to work, to toil, to serve Hashem. When we understand that we are a true slave of Hashem and we act that way, that's where we'll find tranquility even in this world, says Reb Leib. So the lesson of Moshe's message at the beginning of this week's Torah portion, V'haya Ekev tishme'un. As Rashi says, do all the mitzvot. When a slave does not have choice to choose to do this, to choose to do that. If a master comes and tells the slave, I want you to make the beds, wash the floor, and prepare lunch. You can't do 2 out of the 3 of them. You have to do all of them. When we understand that we're slaves of God, when we have to fulfill all the mitzvot, that's where we'll find tranquility. That's where we'll find our place. That's where we will enjoy the land of Israel, because it's given to only those who live that way. So going back to our original question, why is Hashem shelling out mercy and compassion nonstop for this nation? Chance. After the golden calf, after the sin of the spies, after all the complaining, after doubting Moses, giving them 40 years of unfortunately having to kill out that nation instead of all at one shot on the first Tisha B'Av. Why so much mercy and compassion? Because Hashem knew how hard it would be. Hashem knew how hard it is for them because they're living with, unfortunately, scars on their backs, trauma, scars in their hearts from all the oppression and sadness and torture they endured. That's why Hashem had a tremendous amount of mercy and compassion for them. I want to stretch. This is what Rav Leib says. I want to take one little step forward and make this super practical to all of us. Maybe we need to look at others in our lives and not be so harsh on them. Hold back a little bit of the deen, the judgment, and start shelling out love and compassion. Because maybe they also have scars on their backs, scars in their hearts for trauma that they may be bearing inside them, things we may and may not know of. Sometimes people act completely out of whack, completely out of line, out of character, out of nature, 100%. Our human tendency is to naturally judge them. But what if the reason why that person is responding so severely is because of something they one time endured, something they lived through, a story they heard or read or was told to by their parents or their grandparents? There is, we sometimes understand physical trauma. Like, for example, a person that hurt a certain part of their body, let it be their knee, their shoulder, their finger. The human body has a natural protective mechanism to protect yourself from being touched or hurt in that area. Unfortunately, if there's any, again, we're speaking open over here, a person who was sexually abused, whether it may be at a very young age or even older, the body has that trauma etched in, which is very, very hard to remove. God forbid a child who was molested or a woman who was raped. They have to go through serious sexual therapy in order to get them back to a normal, healthy, functioning system that they'll be able to enjoy intimacy with their spouse in a healthy setting. That is a coping mechanism of protection that the human body and brain and emotions applies to protect from another exposure to previous trauma. The same thing is for the way people react verbally to certain situations. Sometimes you say one thing to your friend, to your sister, to your brother, to your neighbor, to your spouse, and that just lights them up. It hits a button. Ask yourself why. Maybe that word or this situation or this conflict literally triggers past trauma, pain, oppression, suffering. We don't know what it is. Now, you may not be able to be the psychologist or psychiatrist for this person and work it out with them, but at least understand, notice that there's something that is completely not normal over here, yet it's completely normal because they're reacting in a way to protect themselves from getting hurt or let down another time. So the same way, midah keneged midah, let's be like Hashem. The same way as Hashem understands a person's pain and suffering and past trauma and shells out way more mercy and compassion and forgiveness, just like he did for the Jewish people. If we want Hashem to act that way towards us, let's go out and act like that towards others. When we see things that people are doing, ways that they're acting which seems completely not normal, ask yourself, or if it maybe lends to the situation, ask that person, is there a reason why? Now, it's very delicate. It's a very delicate situation, but is there a reason why you respond or you act this way when A, B, and C happens? Or when I say X, Y, and Z, you always tense up. Is there a reason why? Now, you have to be very close to the person to bring that up to them. They have to understand you're coming from a place of love and care and help and not coming to knock them down or trying to take advantage. Because, just like the Jewish people were taken advantage of, that's where the pain and the trauma came from. The person you're dealing with that's acting in the same way, their coping mechanism is doing that to protect themselves. If they feel like you're trying to infiltrate and trying to harm them, you're not going to be doing them any good. On the contrary, you're going to be pushing them further away. So if you want to help that person, first acknowledge what's happening to yourself. Step back. Don't attack. Then, if and when, and probably not at that moment, the occasion arises, bring it up with them, or bring it up with someone that may be able to explain you why or how this person reacts. So you can build a beautiful relationship with that person, help them, care for them. Hashem will see that, he'll do the same for you. So in the merit of Rabbi Leib Heyman, and this fascinating insight to why Hashem kept on shelling out compassion and forgiveness and love and mercy to the generation that left Egypt, let us do the same. But let us understand why. It's why did Hashem do so? Because of the pain and trauma. Us also. Consider other people's pain and trauma and their past and their scars, and shell out love and compassion and mercy, just like you do for your own kid. Like if you know if your own kid has a specific trigger and you stay far away from that button because you don't want to hurt them. You don't want to flare them up. Do so with others as well. Make that effort, and I'm sure HaKadosh Baruch Hu will bless you tremendously with health, happiness, mercy, compassion, and forgiveness. Especially coming now, we're less than 2 weeks away. We're like a week and a half away from the month of Elul, which is just a month before Rosh Hashanah. Time is coming. It's flying. Ani lidodi v'dodi li. I am to my beloved as beloved is unto me. How we act to others, Hashem will reciprocate and act back towards us. Serious time of the year now. One last week and a half of summer, and then that's it. The shofar is starting to be blown. For us Sfaradim, Slichot is starting to be said. And it's back into action. It's full force ahead. This is a great way to prepare for that time of the year. And may Kadosh Baruch Hu bless us again in the merit of Rabbi Leib Heyman and the Zer Shimshon, and to everyone who joined us this evening. Thank you very much. If anyone has any questions, you are able to unmute yourself at this time and go for it. Thank you. Isaac, in honor of you returning after, I think, a month of no class, go for the first question.
I think it was 2 weeks. I still listen.
It felt like a month. It felt like a month.
It's not the same. It's so you said that Hashem didn't perform any miracles for over 100 years or so. but actually open miracles. So he actually hasn't done any open miracles also for over 2,000 years. So I was thinking the other day, sometimes I get upset because the divisiveness of the Jewish people, one thinks the other one is this and that and that. And then just the other day it hit me, and then you brought it into a different perspective. The fact that Hashem is hiding, so to speak. I mean, you can find him in the Torah, but there's always different perspectives in the Torah. So a lot of fights, a lot of this, a lot of that. And not only that, but people who simply are out. What of these people that are simply out? Does Hashem have compassion for them in the world to come? I mean, what is the story? I mean, it's more of Jewish people that are out than are in, so to speak. And the truth is, it's not their fault, they're enslaved to their own, whatever it is that they're enslaved to,
Surrounding
circumstances. And it's not easy for them to, first to conquer the Hebrew language, and then to try to, it's not easy. So what does Hashem have in store for these people? That's one thing. And then I have something.
Okay, wait, one at a time. I already have two things to say. To say on that.
Okay.
So, two things. I'll answer your second before your first. Your second on what does Hashem have in store for those people? Hashem understands where a person comes from and what their intentions are. Unless a person is actively betraying God and angry at God and is actively not believing in God, Hashem will always have complete mercy and compassion on a person. In Hebrew, in the Talmud, it's called a tinok shenishba. It's literally like a child that was kidnapped. Most Jews today are spiritually kidnapped because they were not raised in a Torah framework. And Hashem understands that. It hurts him, it pains him, but he has tremendous amount of love and compassion and tolerance for that. So that's for that person. But on the first thing you said, I want to humbly disagree. You said that in the past 2,000 years, we have not seen an open miracle from Hashem. I want to say that that is completely different than the last almost 100 years of in Egypt. In Egypt, those last 100 years, to the Jewish people, their cries were completely unanswered. To the Jewish people, they were crying and suffering and bleeding and enslaved, and they literally felt completely disregarded from God. I want to suggest that over the past 2,000 years, there have been some positive hallmarks and milestones for the Jewish people, such as the construction of the first temple, construction of the second temple, even though there were the destructions, the returning to the land of Israel, different eras of prosperity, of Torah success, and Jewish community success, even though there may have been a down afterwards, but there has been some response from God, at least a feeling of it. In the last generation of Egypt, the generation of the Exodus, literally felt nothing. They had nothing until the 10 plagues. So that was the difference, okay?
Okay.
Next question.
It's a statement, or you said, why did Moshe told the Jewish people, you don't deserve anything. You really shouldn't be here. You really should have been destroyed. However, God made a promise to Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. And that's the reason why you're here. So that was another shot I got from the this week's Parashat.
No, for me it was a big chidush also. Reb Leib said it, and I never thought of it that way, that really Hashem should have destroyed them all at once, and in his compassion and mercy specifically for the upcoming generation and the orphans, he delayed it slowly over 40 years, which is a nice way to look at it also. Very nice.
Thank you. That was a beautiful lesson. Beautiful lesson.
Okay, Eileen has a question.
Okay. Yes, he let us wait it out 40 years. And at the same time, we had a chance to, I guess, repopulate. Right?
That's the point. That's the whole point.
Right. Had he gotten rid of us, then where's the next generation and the next generation and the next generation? All right. So the next thing I wanted to ask, and first of all, it was a beautiful, beautiful class tonight. It was just such a great message that I didn't see coming. So beautiful things are always hidden. And this was one of them.
Thank you.
Okay. So when we talk about when
Oh,
you
can I just pause? I just want to pause. Sorry. I want to make one quick announcement before I forget. This coming week, class is going to be Sunday night, not Wednesday night, because I'm going to be out of town.
Okay.
I'll send everyone the notice by WhatsApps, same time, 8 p.m., but it's going to be Sunday night, not Wednesday night. Okay? Sorry for interrupting. Go. I would have forgot.
That's okay. Now I gotta find my question.
Oh, no.
No, it's okay. But you were actually kind of talking. I'm just gonna go by memory. We were talking.
Oh, that's your birthday.
We were talking about that the nation. First of all, God asked us, right? He asked all. I mean, I just want to get it straight for the record here. God asked all 70 other nations. Everyone did. No one wanted his Torah. We said yes. So that's why we're joined together, is because we accepted the Torah. And I just think that's why he has the ultimate mercy on us, because we said yes. No one else said yes. That's kind of my one thought. The other thought is that first generation that left Egypt, yes, they saw darkness, as you were saying, dark. Of course, they were slaves. They only had a slave mentality. So it was very difficult for them to even understand. We could actually even understand why they, even though it hurts our hearts, we can understand why they built that golden calf, because it's the mentality where they came from. They had to first start learning Emunah. But it was a great nation that left because, one, they chose to leave. Only 20% chose to leave. So that has to have some credit. Think of all the Jews that didn't leave. So we come from that 20%. That's one. And two, that group, as dark as it was, saw tremendous light. They saw the Red Sea split, the Sea of Reeds split. They saw the open miracles. They saw the 10 plagues. They saw and they heard Hashem's voice. So as dark as it was, I don't know if it gets any more miraculous.
So Leib says the reason why Hashem went through all of those miracles for them to live through was part of their healing process. Hashem was giving them something to heal with.
Right.
But still, it's never perfect. Still, you could only, how can someone who lived through the Holocaust, lost every single family member, how can they completely heal? They could do the best like they can with what they're dealt with. They can move to America, they can build a new family, and they can be as positive as possible. But is there a way to fully heal? No. Sorry, no.
Yes, I guess there are certain things that we can't heal from, but it doesn't mean we can't we don't see tremendous miracles and tremendous light.
100%.
That is how that happened. That is why we stand here today, because we were part of all of that.
100%.
Beautiful class. Thank you.
Thank you.
That's it for me. Siggy, you're up.
I'm next. Very happy to have heard Mr. Capuano back. Welcome. Such a pleasure. Every class that you were in, I asked for you.
I heard.
So wonderful. Very, very good.
Thank you.
Mazel Tov, Eileen, on this very beautiful week, and lots of celebration to you.
Thank you.
To my son, Rabbi Laredo, this was such a beautiful shiur. Every week, I'm always amazed. How can it get even better? And I see why we keep reading and studying a fochba, because we always pull out more gems. And how better than to read this right before coming into the Chodesh of Elul, where we have to have greater compassion for everyone. We have to do more learning, more prayers, more tzedakah, and more gemilut chasadim. And it starts right here on the shiurim that you give. Thank you so much.
If I could tell you, but I know Yasmina has a question, but if I could tell you, response to you, Mom, and also to Eileen, and I think I've told you this before, I literally don't even know how I'm going to spin the class until it's time to spin it. Meaning,
And you do it.
there's all the information, and you may look at me like I'm crazy.
No, it's perfect. You know why? Because it's proof that a Kadosh Baruch Hu has his finger on everything, including what he puts in your mind, the chokhmah that comes down from Keter, that comes into you, that you fix with your bina, that you give over through your shiurim. It's all Hashem.
No, meaning I have this, this,
I concur.
and then I'm like, okay, how am I going to spin it? How am I going to twist it?
You're just the right vessel. Rabbi Loreto, you're just the right vessel. It's Hashem's message, and we had
No,
to.
honestly, it's in all of your merit. It's in your merit because Hashem wants. If I'd be speaking only to one person or to nobody, it would nothing come out.
The whole thing is
True.
beautiful
Thank you,
and
thank
very
you,
amazing.
thank you.
Oh,
Can I
That's
say
me, no
one
one.
thing? I'm sorry.
Can I ask you something?
Go ahead, you go first. Yeah, then I
Thank
want
you. Good evening, everybody.
to.
Rabbi, I wanted to ask you about the first part of this year with the Zera Shimshon, when you talked about there's people who do the mitzvos and what we're told to do, and people who go a little bit above it. So I'm just confused with, what about the concept of Levnei Mishura Sadin? People tell you, well, I want to keep Shabbos 2 days. And you're like, no, you're only supposed to keep it 1. So where's that balance of maybe I want to do more? And am I not doing that more to show off to people? So I don't get it. Like Hasidim, they get married under the stars, but isn't that going Lifnei Mishura Sadin? Because it doesn't have to be under the stars, but they do it. So I'm always like, I don't get it. Am I doing a little bit more? But is that what Hashem wants me to or not? So I'm always confused with that. And you just brought that up.
So it's funny. I don't remember how many weeks ago, but I remember clearly learning from Reb Leib. Not like in this point the Zer Shimshon or Reb Leib would disagree, but I remember clearly learning from Reb Leib that the reason why, yes, now I remember, it was at the end of the book of Bamidbar. The reason why Bnei Gad and Bnei Reuven were wrong for wanting to be on the other side of the Jordan River was because they were going above the letter of the law. Remember, with protecting their children. Do you remember that class? If you don't,
Yeah.
go back and listen to that class.
Yes, definitely.
It was a very powerful concept. So on one hand, you're not allowed to go above the letter of the law. But on the other hand, we're learning here that the only way to get married in this world is when you do go above the letter of the law. So what did we answer back then? We answered powerful back then. We answered that when it's in privacy, which is when a person's true level is truly determined, which is only between you and God, then there is plenty of room for stringencies and above the letter of the law. But if it's an outward display and in public, that's when you go based on the letter of the law. Just righteousness. Then we even asked back then, well, if you keep Shabbat later, isn't that something that's public opposed to something that's private? So there are certain stringencies where if you feel you're at the right level, you can obviously speak to your rabbi about it and see if that's where you should be holding. Then you can adopt, even if it is something that is public. But in general, the idea of a stringency is something that should be inflicted upon yourself, not upon others. Shabbat gets a little difficult because when you end Shabbat later, especially if you're mommy, everyone's waiting on you for bath, for dinner, for whatever it may be. So it does get a little bit difficult. But in general,
Rabbi, but you also said that we have to know what is the letter of the law and what isn't. And that's the problem. So keeping Rabbeinu Tam is not over and above.
We explained that last time, that Rabbeinu Tam is according to the Shulchan Aruch, according to Chaim Ovadia Yosef, is the letter of the law.
Exactly.
It's just there are different opinions. Again, I'm just using that as an example. There are zillions and zillions of things, but
and we concluded, Jasmina, that what it means is we have to learn more those specific examples instead of saying, "Oh, I don't want to take more on because that would be wrong." Ask the question in the specific mitzvah, in the specific situation. And
or if you're getting criticism, whether it may be from your spouse, from your kids, from your neighbor, from your friend, why are you always so stringent? Why so pause. Don't bite back. I know it's hard. Don't bite back. Go and now learn, is what I'm doing the letter of the law or above the letter of the law? And then you can now make your decision. But I think that, like my mom said, what we concluded was educate yourself. Is what I'm doing the letter of the law or above the letter of the law? And then you're able to even choose, do I even have leeway over here or not?
Okay. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Wonderful.
All right.
Before we
Eileen,
hang
last
up-
question.
No, before we hang up, I'm curious when what Parsha Sarah was born on, because a special happy birthday to Sarah coming up.
Oh yeah, you're right. From Sarah's
Okay.
birthday. Good.
Now I can rest in peace. Okay.
Thank you.
Now
Thank-
there's peace on earth for me.
Thank you.
Great,
right.
wonderful.
Bye,
Nice
everybody.
Okay, bye. And so